Yeah.
Because I feel as if everybody were required to come up with a solution every time they complained, there would be a lot less complaining. Because it would make us active in our own lives rather than passive and victims. It would make us literally have to take some action to put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah.
And what I've also discovered is that complaining is a form of negativity. It's a form of just putting something negative out into the universe rather than taking responsibility for it. If I were to read the paper and then regurgitate all the bad news, look at how I'd start my day. I would much rather go boogie boarding on the beach than do that.
Do you?
Every morning.
This is fantastic.
It's impossible to feel sorry for yourself when you're boogie boarding. And you're on your husband's back, flying into the shore like a 747.
Is that what you do?
That's what we do.
You're on your husband's back.
We decided that it's more fun as a double than it is a single.
Oh my God, amazing. So in moments of deep despair, what did you do to change those moments? Because I'm sure there were plenty of moments of deep despair. What did you do to change those moments into positives?
I still have to do it.
Yeah.
Every time I go to the doctor, I am delivered really bad news. It's either just acknowledgement that I'm still going to die, or it's that I need to get some more chemo, which I've decided I don't want to do anymore. And so I'm human, and what I've discovered happens, though I hate to admit it, is that my husband and I will actually start to cry on the drive home, thinking about, okay, this is it. And then we remember that we've been doing this for 4 years. And we just remember that we don't have to do this, that we have a choice. We can accept what the doctors say and act upon that, and then I can go home and I can get into bed and feel sorry for myself and call everybody I know. Or I can create a different reality called, I'm going to throw my doctor a retirement party and show him what's possible. And if I concentrate on that and creating a miracle of life, then I'm going to feel better because I'm in a position of power rather than that weakness and that helplessness that you feel when you're a victim.
Yeah. Well, you have a history, there's a history of addiction, right?
Yes.
And that's another thing you've overcome in your life.
Yes.
And one of the things you want to teach people is to create new grooves.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Grooves are like, the best metaphor I can come up with is that a lot of people won't remember, but phonograph records had grooves in them. And when we play those phonograph records too much, the same way, the metaphor is the same way we play old tapes in our head too much of how we failed or what we can't do well. When we play it too much, we literally form a groove in our brain that then becomes deeply grooved, and this is actually real, it's science. It's little clumps of neurons that actually come together to form these little neurological pathways in the brain. And so now that the pathway is born, our mind wants to go down that same familiar pathway whenever anything happens. It's just something that the mind is comfortable with. So if, for example, the pathway is, I'm going to die, after a while, that's what my mind will start to believe. And so every ache and pain that I get will be, this is it. And what will happen is I'll lay down and I'll react to every pain as if this is it. But if I believe something different, then you can't get rid of a groove, unfortunately. If it's grooved in there, it's grooved in there. But unlike phonograph records, there is something that we can do with our brain, thank goodness, that will change the grooves, which is we can create a new groove. And if that groove is in direct opposition to the original groove, and we keep going over it and keep going over it every single day, eventually we will obliterate the original groove. and the new groove will win, but only for a while. Because remember, we've usually got about 30 or 40 years on that old groove.
Yeah.
So that old groove is stubborn and it wants to hit us whenever possible. So by practicing the new groove and by literally making it a daily practice, you then can have your mind go there naturally. And then you have to keep doing it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah. You have a book that you wrote called Undying?
Yes.
What was that about? When did you write that?
I wrote this book in the year 2000 because I met a friend. I come from a family of obesity.
Really?
Yes. And I met a friend who talked to me about it and told me why I was having fears of being obese. She said, I thought like an obese person. And she taught me how to think differently. She taught me how thin people think. Which I never had any clue about because that's not what I learned. And so I started to think like a thin person, and I realized thin people don't think about food all day. Thin people eat when they're hungry. Thin people eat exactly what they want when they're hungry. They don't eat diet foods. They eat what they want. They satisfy those needs. They stop when they're full. I didn't even know what the word full meant. I just kept on going till it was gone. Or helpings were stopped.
Were you obese at one point?
I was very heavy.
You were very heavy?
I was very heavy.
And this predates any of the cancer or anything?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And
yes.
so the dieting and the results from that came not just because you...
No.
No.
It came because I realized that dieting was the thing that makes us fat. Because if you understand dieting, what it creates is a backlash effect. And what happens if you deprive yourself of French fries, for example, or chocolate chip cookies because you like them too much, well, what do you think is going to happen the next time you get around some chocolate chip cookies?
Yeah,
You're going to totally be out of control.
Yeah.
Whereas if you would allow yourself to have them in moderation, then they don't become that one-armed bandit to a gambler. They're now just a food. So it's dieting that makes us feel deprived so that when we get around the forbidden foods, we overdo them. And then we eat too much and we gain weight and we say, I'm going to just stop eating now. I'm going to starve myself. What do you do when you starve yourself? You eat because you're hungry and you overeat, and the cycle continues over and over again.